Hello everyone watching. I'm making this video to, I guess, kind of address and give my opinions on some of the more frequent questions that are asked on this. And this is just my perspective, this is my opinion, and this is just like my kind of, I guess, guideline and what works for me and I've had tremendous success with. And so number one is, how do I price this job? What would you charge? Well, there's a lot of variables, all right? For me, I do drywall primarily, but I can do a couple other things. Drywall is my main forte. So you can price it out by square footage, and I highly recommend if you're going to go that way that you go measure it out. It's a pain in the ass, but it just kind of has to be done. I've went by customers' word, I've went by customers' sheet count, I've went by customers' accumulation of square footage. But then, when I got there, it was tore up. A lot of nook and crannies, a lot of corner beads they didn't consider. So the best advice I can give you is you got to go look at it, man. You just have to go look at it. And if that's not an option, then you should at least get a rough square footage from them if possible. And then you times it by 3, the 3 times rule. So if it's, 1,000 square feet, then you say $3,000. Cover your ass, right? And that's not going to always be the most accurate or best way. The only best way to do it is just to lay eyes on it, in my opinion. So, And another thing, too, is if you're going to get into business, man, you really have to know what you're capable of. And you have to know what your time is worth, what you're able to do. And trust me when I say what you think you're worth and what you think and what the customers think you're worth are 2 totally different things. And that's just the way it is. So keep that in mind. And if you're paying for materials too, this is a good takeaway from this. All right, if you're paying for materials, you need to get a deposit for it up front, okay? And you need to take the total cost of materials and add 20%. Because you got to factor in wear and tear on your vehicle, gas, transportation, hauling it into the job site. None of these things are free unless the customer does it. That's why I personally prefer the customer provides the material. And it saves your ass too. Because if you tell a customer a specific material and they don't get the right one, you got to be stern, but you can't be a prick. You got to tell them, like, this isn't what I said, this is not what I use, I'm not going to use this. Okay? So they have to return it. And if you do, because the return process, like I said, the wear and tear on your vehicle, the gas, look, you have to factor all these things in. These are things you have to think about that, might seem minor, but in the long run, they're going to add up and they're going to cost you tremendous. And these are just things I've learned, over the years doing business. Okay? So if you provide materials, add at least 20%. That's gas, that's wear and tear on your vehicle. Yeah. Kyle, you already said that. Okay. Moving on. I got burned. How would you go about this? Yada, yada, yada. Well, how I would go about it is I always get 50% up front. Get 50% of the project up front. Okay? And then you get another 25% when it's halfway or 3/4 done. And then you get the remaining 25% when it's completed. Okay? Because look, in business, you have to be a salesman. Who would have thunk it, right? You have to sell yourself. Not like a prostitute, but we're kind of in the same bracket. You have to be presentable, you have to be attractive, you have to make your customers want you. And so if you can't get 50% of the project up front, that's going to cover you, all right, for a majority of things. That's going to, day-to-day operations, your bills, you know, if you have guys to pay, your payroll is going to be covered. See, I'm a one-man band. I don't have to worry about that kind of thing, but it's just a good policy. 50% up front, 25% halfway or 3/4 of the way of completion, and the last 25% upon completion. All right? If you take away nothing else in this video, I want you to remember that. That is so important, because that's going to cover you. As long as you're doing good work, man, you're not going to be burned, you know? They're not going to quit halfway through and find someone cheaper. So you have to present yourself in a way, and this too, you got to think about this. Like, they're not only paying for your expertise, but they're paying for your tools, your time. Time is a major thing, man. And you know, you're to and from the job site, and your cleanup, you know, none of that is free. We have a finite amount of time. You should know what your time is worth if you're getting into business. You have to be paid for it. And if your customer can't do you that solid of investing in you before you start, why the hell would you want to invest in them, you know? Like, I work for mainly cash on the side just to get me and my girl the little extras, because this world sucks and everything's so expensive, and I don't like working as much as I do, but I kind of have to have a good life for me and my family, you know? And don't think everyone's going to be honest and pay you at the end or halfway through, bro, because they're not, sadly. So that's just kind of the main things I wanted to get across. But yeah, if you're going into business, these are good sites. You can get some good insight on it, but dude, if you're getting into business, man, you got to be able to, like, kind of picture things in your head, and you got to be able to know what your time's worth, and like, how far are you traveling from your home to the job site? How many hours do you think you're going to spend there on a day? And give yourself a little leeway, you know, bid a little bit over money wise, because if you bid a little bit over money wise and you do good work and you know what you're doing, chances are you're going to finish early, man, and they're going to be happy as hell to pay you, I promise you. But on the opposite end of the token, if you do not so great work, or, you know, they're not really happy, they're not going to be so happy to pay you. So that's where half up front comes in handy. Half up front, do good work. I get all my shit from word of mouth, man, and that's just how it is. You shouldn't have to market. You should market, but you shouldn't have to if you do really good work. You'd be surprised how word travels, you know? Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I just made this video kind of a guideline. That's just like the bare bone basics of it. Yeah. Hope you learned something from it. Peace.